you can't sell community. Just let that sink in for a second. Nobody wants to buy community. They want to buy outcomes. And seeing people literally like 10x their pricing, which you totally can
Yeah.
do.
Welcome back to the Sustainable Creator Podcast. We are so excited that you're joining us for another episode. Or if you're new here, welcome. That's amazing. We love that you found us in some way, shape, or form, and excited to have you here with us today. We are talking with Becky today all about service-based membership models. And I'm excited about this topic because it's something that has been popping up with a lot of our members inside of the break room, as well as some of our coaching clients. So I think it's going to be really relatable to you guys. And Becky is an expert. I am so excited to be able to hear more from her and for you guys to learn from her. So we're going to have a lot to talk about today. Becky, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite topics as well. Obviously, I talk about memberships 24/7, but specifically for service-based business owners, I feel like there's just a huge opportunity there.
Yeah. Well, I can speak for both of us. We love your email list. It is one of our favorites that we subscribe to and read every week. And the knowledge you share in that is always so fascinating. We're always learning something from you. So that's how I know today's going to be good. All right. Well, to get us started, can you share a little bit more about who you are, what you do, your preferred title, if you will, and how did you get into running your agency and being a go-to expert with memberships?
Yeah. So I'm a boutique agency owner. I run Affinity Collective, and we design, build, and manage memberships and community products. And we like to think of ourselves as like the digital product partners behind your favorite apps. So a lot of our clients are in the education space. They're some bigger brands, but every one of them has some kind of like program or membership model where they're bringing people together, teaching them, helping them grow. And then, of course, we have like a subset of service business clients as well that are building some kind of like done with you offer into their business. And so I know we'll talk a lot about that today. I started my career in tech. So I worked in tech building custom software. And so our team, like what makes us different is that everybody's actually trained in software development. And so we're very much we follow a lot of methodology in our work. Like everything is very data driven. And yes. And you guys know, if you read my emails, I'm obsessed with data. And I'm like, here's the numbers and here's how we're making decisions. And so we're focused a lot on user experience, member journeys, and that is really what makes us different than like your other community consultant.
It makes me trust you even more because there's just something about a hard fact that just feels so refreshing in today's day and age, and really just solidifies that you know your stuff. Like you've done the work, you've looked at the data, you're using it to drive your decisions. We're a big fan of that.
I think the data component is also really interesting just because like I'm thinking about it, like one of our big goals is we want to work with 180 clients this year, specifically like creative service providers. And part of that is in our membership on the end of every month, we do an update on like, what's the progress there? What have we experimented with? Like what's working, what's changing. And we went pretty deep into the data on the one that we did for February, and just like that brain dump of like, here's the stats of everything that we tried and how it performed is really interesting. That, but also like seeing how people are responding to that now that it's up inside of the break room for us, and how our members are realizing, oh, we can go a lot deeper on data instead of the surface level, which is cool to me.
Yeah. So kind of on that note, I'm curious if you were to put an estimate, it's okay if you don't have hard numbers on this, but I know you just launched your own membership, and I'm curious on an estimate ratio. How much income would you say, or a percentage of your sales come from your done with you or the agency side versus the membership that you just launched?
Good question. I don't know yet. I'm sort of in the middle of launching it. So like
Right.
I've pre-sold 10 people. The price point for the membership is $5,000 total, but for this first group I'm doing $3,000. And we can talk about my like sales strategy for this, but I have like in my business, my sales strategy in general is every single client starts with a strategy / audit with us. Like if they have a membership we're auditing, we're building something new, it's a strategy. But we're starting with that, and then they can apply that fee forward to a project with us, or they can take their strategy and run. And since I've made that switch in my business, I've seen huge growth, like 3x growth. And so
Wow.
it's having a huge impact. So I'm using the same model with the Done With You. So it's like they do the strategy, and then if they're not a good fit for our very expensive, we do everything for you retainer, then like they're a good fit for the membership. And in that case, like they can apply that 1,500 forward. So my first group, their fee was $3,000
Yeah.
for a year of support
Yeah.
for my team, which is kind of crazy. And I don't know if
Yeah.
I'll like
Fantastic.
keep this pricing forever, but my thoughts right now are that it's going to be 5,000.
Okay.
So we'll see.
I love that. That is so cool. And also, thank you for sliding a sales strategy in there because we're all about, we're talking about sales a lot this month inside of the break room. So our listeners are going to be so happy you shared that.
As we pivot a little bit into like the main chunk of the conversation here around membership specifically, for someone that is not as deep into the weeds as you are on memberships, can you break down like what are the most common types of memberships? Because we want to talk specifically about service memberships in this conversation, but just like lay the land, like what are your options if you're considering a membership?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of the clients we work with have some kind of education component. And so they're taking people on a learning journey. It's transformative. We're helping them go from A to B. There's really clear outcomes. Um, so there's a membership model where it's like education, community, connection, networking based, right? I would say, and I just threw the word networking in there, but I would actually maybe categorize that differently because networking membership is more like you are joining this membership so that you get access to other specific people. As business owners, like we should all be a member of at least one membership like that, I think.
Yeah.
And so I'm in a couple. And so that's a really great way to build relationships, to create partnerships, like referral partners, like all of that. So, if you're somebody that is super connected, like I like to think about these people as connectors. So if you're like one of those people that's constantly connecting lots of people, or you love getting on a virtual coffee chat, or like just like lights you up, then, that could be an interesting membership model where it's like you're really building a networking experience. There has to be some kind of in-person component to that in 2026. So that's something to think about. And then there's like the more community that is supportive of like other business types. So SaaS companies that have like communities, and those are less so, I wouldn't describe those as much as memberships. Those are more like communities, part of organizations. And I don't really play in that space. I mainly work in like, you have a business model that includes a membership offer, like a subscription offer in your business. The last category I'll give you is like a content subscription. And these are harder to do well now because just it's a lot easier to get content and where you're overwhelmed by content. But I still have a couple of clients that are successful, especially in like the social media space, that have some kind of like, we're giving you a weekly prompt or trends or whatever, and it's very time based. So the content drop itself kind of like expires in a way where it's like, this is valuable and helpful for you this week, and then it's gone. So we're not adding to a giant library of content that's just going to overwhelm people. So I think those are the categories. That was a good question.
Thanks.
So I think just kind of like to piggyback on that, you said most of your clients have a membership as like part of their business model or income model. For you, do you see generally it's the membership is a smaller portion of their like total income pie, or is it over like the majority of their income?
Man, it really depends. Like I have clients where the membership is their signature main offer, and so it is the majority of their revenue. I also I have a client that has courses, and she has courses in a program, and she just added her membership on, and so it's not the biggest part of the pie yet, but it is recurring revenue that comes in every month. So when you're like pursuing a new course sale every month, and courses are questionable right now, and so that it's a smart move to think about how can I present this differently. And so I'm seeing a lot of people kind of like move from courses and programs to membership model for that reason, because like the human connection programming aspect is actually what matters right now in 2026 with AI and everything.
100%. Yes, for sure. I am curious. That leads to a question that just popped up for me because we've also seen that memberships have essentially become the new quote unquote courses, except they're also not. They're their own thing, right? But because they have become all the rage and they are so popular right now, for lack of a better word, and obviously valuable, how would you suggest that someone wanting to launch a service membership model in particular differentiate it from others that are available?
Yeah, you have to have like an incredible promise. It has to have a really specific to you flow. I think frameworks are really powerful for this. So this is how I've thought about my own membership. This is how I help my clients, which is like once you have a framework you're using, like I'm sure you guys have a process you put your clients through.
Yep.
Like
We do.
so that repeatable process that you are using with every single client, framework that, make it a little bit more of a polished methodology that you share, that you're known for. And then that becomes sort of like the backbone of your membership where like they're working through these stages. And that is just a lot less copy paste than we're going to do, you know, I don't know, social media content support for every month in a subscription. Like it's just a little bit more differentiated. And I think that the person behind the brand also has an impact because like this content subscription, actually this social media content client I have is like very high trusted by her community. She's an incredible person. Like she has an amazing rapport and connection with her community. And that's why she is able, like her clients buy everything she creates because she creates really high quality product. And
That's
so,
amazing.
serve your customers really well, like have really high
Yes.
quality experience, and then make sure that you're not just putting people in a room, but you're actually creating like a process for them to go through and designing a member journey and having like a methodology that they're working through.
Yeah. If you do one thing well, you do everything well. That's such a good reminder, something we've been talking about a lot lately because we're 4 months in, I think, maybe going on 5 of running this membership. It was not on our radar a year ago, not something we had plans for. And it kind of organically happened, and it's been one of the best things ever. But having that mindset on, yes, we want it to grow, but also we want to do it right has been so helpful to keep our focus in check, make sure our intentions are right. And then that starts to compound, have a ripple effect. I love that a lot. I also love the framework. I think that brings a lot of trust and credibility too, like we were talking about before, which again, in today's day and age speaks volumes. Like, I think that's a big topic in and of itself that we could have a whole other conversation on. Thank you for answering that. That was really, really helpful.
Our audience is majority creative service providers. So like photographers, web designers, copywriters, people that probably don't see themselves as community leaders.
Yeah.
If you were to give like a specific definition of what is a service membership rather than like an education membership, how would you put that in context of how that fits into a service business?
Yeah, let me just give you an example. So, my friend Cheyenne Butchery and also client, she has an amazing copywriting business. She helps people with copywriting and their marketing funnels. So her retainers are pretty premium pricing because of who her clients are. Like she works with
Right.
top creators. But she has a lot of people that want to work with her that can't necessarily afford that premium pricing. And also she only has so much space. So it's also an option when like we think about team and scaling, like how we can add this in so that we have a more scalable solution and we don't necessarily need to add 5 more team members, but we could add, this scalable option. So that's an aside. We could talk about that. But what she's doing is she has her templates she uses in her client projects, her personal templates, and she has her processes that she follows. Like she has her methodology, like I just described. And so what she's done is like take that, turn it into sort of like a quote unquote course, but really it's like these are the stages of your funnel that you're going to build out. These are the templates you're going to need at each stage. Like, here's your everything you need to know about your webinar. Here's everything you need to know about your sales page. Like, here's your emails. Here's like whatever. And she has this unique process called her like messaging guide process, which is like everybody starts with that. So she has this whole process. It's basically set up so that it's like you can go through it like a course. You can go through just the templates and pull the templates that you need. But she's starting everybody with some kind of one-on-one service, and then they come in here. And she does like coaching calls to help people. And there's like a copy editing service. There's another friend of mine who's a copywriter who has a copywriting membership that is more focused on like your monthly marketing emails. But in both of these scenarios, it's like you are giving your personal templates and tools, and it's like you take the first stab at it and we're going to edit it for you. And so I think that that's a model that a lot of creative service business owners can adopt. But the differentiator is, again, in the process.
Yeah. I also like that because it pushes the member to do the work themselves and learn from doing and then get feedback on how to improve, which is just going to make it stick even more. That's a great example. If you were to put into your own words, why should a creative service provider like a photographer or a website designer or a copywriter actively running a one-on-one business model right now, why would they consider doing a service-based membership model for their business?
Yep. Okay. So number one would be that they're like capped out on the number of one-on-one services that they can do. So I think it's important to just acknowledge that you need to have a client base. Like,
Yeah,
I'm a few years in and I'm launching my membership now because I have a huge client base. Like, here's my sticky note of people, of names written down that I'm like going to reach out to that are like past clients that I'm like, oh, they should join the collective.
I love that.
And so, and I can fill one of those every single day because we've worked with enough clients. And so it's like, you need to have enough of a book that you could start to bring people together, or enough of a like sales pipeline. So I think it's like, we've had plenty of clients. We have had plenty of process. Like, we've really honed our process. So we know exactly what steps we want people to go through to be successful. Like, this is like repeatable. And then, yeah, you're capped out on like one-on-one that you can take. I mean, that definitely was Cheyenne's situation where she's like, has a lot of clients, and it's like, how do I serve more clients and how do I make more revenue without, I'm already premium priced. I can't just like double all my prices necessarily. So I think it's like, how do we add more revenue? And we're capped with our one-on-one. And then I think the other two components are, you don't want to build an agency or hire a bunch of team, and you're more interested. You're still going to need team, okay? Like, you need support in running these things. Yes. Cheyenne has another copywriter that helps her out, but she's absolutely not interested in building an agency. Like, we have very different visions for like, she's one of my best friends and I'm like, I'm building an agency, and she is very much not. Like, we have this conversation a lot. And even though my team is small, like, it's still an agency and I'm still down to hire another team member. Right. So there's that, like, do you want to build team or not? And if you maybe want a smaller or tighter team, then a membership's a good way to go, because the support for like done with you projects is you need a lot less people than you do for, we're going to do everything done for you one-to-one.
Right.
So I think it's that team decision. It's like, are you at the place where like you're busy enough that you can do this? And then the last decision is around like, do you want to like support people in this way, bring them together? Because some of the magic is actually in like the masterminding that you can do. Like, if you think to yourself, oh, if my customers could just talk to each other, it would be so helpful. Yes. Then that's a really good reason to bring them together and build like a membership product, which is why I'm doing it. I'm like, you guys need to talk, share some notes. Yeah.
I think the thing that's interesting to me of like, you listed out 4 things and the community part was like the asterisk on number 4. Whereas for a lot of people think about memberships as like communities number 1, and then you have transformations and education. Yeah. And if I think about like that structure of this membership model is way less about community, still super important, just different order of priorities. How do you think about like the all important engagement that most people strive for in memberships if community is not the number 1 priority in this type of membership?
Such a good question. So you actually you can't sell community. Just let that sink in for a second. Nobody wants to
Oh, we
buy.
learned that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Nobody wants to buy community. They want to buy
No.
outcomes, and
Yes.
they want. So in this, and especially in like what we're talking about, which is a service business membership, like the scenario here is I want to get the result. I'm willing to do the work myself. I have a smaller budget than I can afford somebody to do this for me. Or I just want to do it myself because I'm that kind of person, right? Like those are your customers. And so they need to know that they're going to get the outcome they're going to get in their process and how they're going to get support. They're probably a lot less interested in meeting other people that are doing it. But the magic of community is that it's an incredible retention tool. So when people come together, you offer like a masterminding session. You're connecting people with one another. You're like saying like, hey, I'm going to introduce you to, and they do a coffee. That's the stuff that they don't know is going to happen that actually makes them keep paying you.
Yes.
But it's not the thing you sell. And it's not the reason to decide we're going to add this membership model, because you need to have a stronger outcome and premise than, oh, I'm going to like bring people together in a room.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it's really interesting. Community has been such a big topic in the past year for a number of reasons. I think a lot of it is we're 5 years removed from the pandemic, 6 years removed from the pandemic at this point. And so we're really craving almost like, how do we make up for that lost time is how I see it. In addition to AI and so much screen time, everyone has just such a craving for how do we have that connection again. But to your point, I don't want to pay for community either. I want to pay for results. And it does click that the reason you stay is for the people. Like that is what makes up the space, but that's not why you buy. Yeah, that's interesting.
I think it's also like if we think about like the strongest communities that most of us existed in is like people went to college, they made friends. You didn't go to college to make friends, but that's some of people's best friends is from those, like they paid for a transformation, tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And the thing that still sticks with them today is the people they met along the way.
I love that. I actually joke often, like I went to fancy private art school to study architecture, and I don't do any of that anymore.
Yeah.
But like I always joke, oh, my experience living in New York City for 5 years and my best friend Emma was worth $100,000 in student loans.
I love
You know what I mean? Like I always joke about that because it's actually so crazy that I made that decision at 18 to like be in debt forever.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful perspective though. I like that a lot. Okay, so that kind of brings me to one of the questions I had for you is there's a lot that people just, they don't know what they don't know, especially with a membership type model that's new to a lot of people in our space. And you have a ton of experience across different companies and things that you have tested out and learned from. And so you've learned a lot in the process. I'm curious, would you mind sharing what are some of the common mistakes that you see people using or making whenever they start a membership, particularly service model?
In a service model, I think it has to do with not planning for a member journey. Like onboarding is always crucial, but in a service model, for example, in order to be successful in your creative service membership, do they need to have done a certain thing? So like for Cheyenne, they need to understand what part of their funnel is working and what part isn't. And nobody does that the way she does. And so she starts everybody with an audit and they just get an audit, right? And so like for me, if they don't have a strategy for their membership, then like my resources and stuff is useless. And so every single member that joins my membership, we're going to work on their strategy. And so I literally have designed it so that they do their strategy first. And then when they're coming in, they're saying like, okay, yeah, I'm focused on this based on my strategy. Like this is my phase 1 plan. So we need to think about what do they need to be successful. And I think there's ways to do this without needing a one-to-one component, because I know that's the main examples I've given, but we can design like step by step, these are the things you need to do. I have a client who's building out a membership who helps people with like their content messaging and brand strategy. So if they don't do her brand strategy process before they do the content piece, then they're not going to be successful with the content piece. And so the onboarding we designed is like basically gatekeeps them from everything else until they complete their brand strategy and it's approved by her team. So we need to like think through the member journey. So like, what do they need to actually be successful in their next steps? And I would say that's probably the biggest mistake, other than I'm just going to bring people together and put them in a room and not like have some kind of like backbone experience. So like really thinking through what the experience is. The part you asked, like I didn't answer the second part of your question, which also applies here before, which is like you asked about the community and engagement piece. And people actually get really stuck on engagement because they're like, oh, the forum needs to be busy. But you need to define what meaningful engagement is in your community. And so for your membership, for your service membership, is it that they're, submitting some kind of like thing for review every week or every other week, or that they're doing their monthly check-in process with you? Like, what is meaningful engagement? Because it probably isn't that they're posting about what they did on the weekend in the forum. Like, who cares? I mean, that stuff is fun and it builds community, but it's not actually meaningful engagement. It doesn't really mean anything for your metrics or retention or success.
Right. Yeah. I love that you came back to that and redefined what engagement means, because you're right that so many people, when you think of the word engagement, you're thinking of how many comments am I getting? How many people are posting? Because that's what we've been trained to think of with social media, and we apply it over to memberships too. So I really like that reframe, that it's not just about how many comments and discussion points you're getting. It can be about reviewing and the conversations that are happening behind the scenes too.
I think the other thing is, like, a lot of people think about like networks, or they watch The Social Network about Facebook growing and they're like, I care about DAOs or daily active users. And for some memberships, that doesn't matter. And that's been an interesting one for me. Like, as we build a membership, I'll go like, there's 3 days without anything on the feed. Like, is this a problem? And it's really not. It's just a frame of reference.
Right.
If I think about like one of the big friction points I've heard talking to people about memberships, or even like a service membership, they're like, I need to have the identity of an educator or a community leader to have permission to have a membership. How would you reframe that for people that they don't need that identity to be able to have their own membership?
I think that's an interesting perspective and not something I've thought. Well, for what it's worth, I've never thought you need to have this identity to build a membership, and all I do is think about what you need to do to build a membership. So maybe that gives people some peace of mind. I think there are ways that we can make up for that, because those components do matter. Not so much those components matter in the sense that you need somebody to like connect people. And if you're not the kind of person that notices those patterns where it's like, oh, like Lyndon absolutely needs to meet Greg, like like that's, then there's probably somebody in your world, in your community, in your business that is like that. And so, pull them into the fold, because I do think that role is important, but it's definitely not a blocker to start. And also, you might surprise yourself that you actually do notice those things. And if you find like you're, again, thinking about your customers and you're like, I wish this person could talk to this person, or there's this common problem I'm noticing that they're not, like, I wish I could like share that with all of them, then that's like a good reason to, like, you already have that bone in your body. The education piece, you don't need to be an educator. You do need to be able to communicate. Like, but if you are running a successful service business, you already know how to communicate. Because communication is the crux of like success in service work and consulting. Like, if you can't communicate your ideas or your processes, like, you're going to struggle with, like, that has nothing to do with a membership. That's just business. So I think like if you're able to build your business and work with clients and work with team members, then you probably already have the skills.
Absolutely.
I think for me, the interesting thing that I thought of like, maybe you are this person, you just didn't realize it, is like the classic example of when you buy a red car, suddenly you recognize there's tons of red cars on the road because now your brain is looking for it. Whereas before you're like, no one drives a red car. And it's just one of those, like, once your brain knows to recognize something, you adapt so quickly to, I'm actually paying attention to this. And I know for me, like, once I started paying attention to who can I connect someone to, suddenly, like, there was so many more intros that I could make because I was actually paying attention to that. And that just happened organically over like a couple weeks, honestly, when I started looking.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's like this idea I think about a lot around systematizing the magic. Like when you
I
like,
love that.
if you notice that you're making an intro and that like caused some magic between a couple of members, then you start to add that to your process where it's like every new member that comes in, you introduce them to two people and it's just part of the process. And then it
I
becomes
love
even
that.
less like, something you have to organically feel in your body and more like this is part of the steps we follow here and it's an SOP.
Yeah.
And then like if it's an SOP, like it's less I'm good at this and more
fun.
like I'm doing a task. Yeah.
I also love that from the member perspective, because if you think about going to an in-person event and you don't know anyone, it's really hard to put yourself out there, especially if you're an introvert. And it takes a lot of stepping outside of your comfort zone to even start that first conversation or hoping that someone does it for you. So having someone to initiate those connection points for you at the forefront, for me, if I was a member, that would speak volumes, because you're telling me that I already belong because I have something in common with these people, or there's something that they can support me with, or whatever the reason. That's a great example. Yeah, I like that a lot.
I think also just like personal story perspective here, like we as our membership only have like 15 people right now. And I was like, oh, everyone knows everybody. They'll reach out to each other. And I was talking to one of our members about something and I was like, oh, this person knows a lot about this. You should reach out. And like 3 or 4 days later, I was like, this connection wasn't made. And like everyone knows each other. They talk to each other frequently, but they didn't feel confident enough to actually reach out and ask that question. Until I was like, hey, you guys should talk. I sent the intro and immediately like the next day they talked about it. Yeah. And it's just like the facilitating that connection, even if it's a small community, goes so far for our members as well.
Yeah. When you go to ask somebody for their time, it feels like you're making a big ask. But if somebody does an introduction for you, it feels like, okay, we both get to decide if yes, I'm willing to chat. Like, yes, I'm willing to chat. Okay, now we can book it. So yeah, whenever, I mean, this is like anything in like networking too. Like whenever I'm trying to meet somebody, I always see like, is there anybody that can introduce me here? And I will say like I take 99% of calls that come through an introduction, if it's awesome. Just like a coffee chat kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine a lot of that has to do with the trust with the mutual connection as well. That's for sure. That's really cool. Okay. So if you were to help someone decide whether a service-based membership model or subscription, like which one would be better for their business, how would you go about helping them make that decision?
Probably 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say go membership, then subscription model. But I would say if what you offer is very time-based, stock suggestions, right? Like we have the stock market. It's changing every day. Every day it's going to change. Like content subscription could be like daily stock recommendations or updates, right? If it's very, very time-based, always shifting, Instagram trends. But if it's longer term, like there are always things that are consistent in your business. I mean, of course, like in marketing, there's like a constant evolution of what's working and what's not. But there's probably some general principles. And then even like the what's changing could be more part of your programming than necessarily like a content subscription. Yeah, 9 times out of 10, I'd say go membership. But if you're like really in a time-based situation, like, I can't think of another example, but that's how I would think about it.
If I kind of like piggyback on that whole like time thing in a different way, as if someone is now thinking about a service membership, how should they think about their own capacity? Because like a lot of the examples that you talked about had some form of one-on-one support inside of this service membership. And as you are building out a blueprint for your own membership, how do you think about your own capacity so that you don't overload on the thing that was supposed to give you more time?
Totally. Well, you have to think about pricing in a really strategic way, value-based pricing. Well, a lot of the memberships I'm describing are, $1,000 plus a month. Like this is a different level than like your $40 a month membership for
Right.
your, education stuff. It is like different.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you want to think about the scale. Like I literally make a spreadsheet or talk to AI or something, and I'm like, okay, so let's say I had 10 members, this is what it's going to require. Like what kind of hours does this require? Like in most cases, you want to think about your scale plan around, okay, when I hit this number of members, I need to have an additional copywriter supporting this or whatever, but it needs to be worth it. In the same way you create a margin strategy for a one-to-one service, you create the same margin strategy for your membership. So it's going to require less hours and work from you on an individual basis, but then like the price point can be lower because of that. And then there's like an overhead that, of course, hours required for like programming, for connecting with some people in the forum, for sending those introduction messages. But that scales a lot slower. So like when you go from 5 to 10 to 20 to 30 members, that's not going to change too much. So that's nice. So that's kind of like your baseline, and you can build that into your formulas when you're thinking about how should you do your pricing for what does this actually cost and what kind of margin am I looking for?
I think that's a helpful reframe because you're looking more. What I also heard from you that is a component that is often missed in these conversations is the pricing aspect, because how you value, like place the value on what you are offering is going to determine how you price it, which is also going to have an effect on what your capacity is and how many people you can serve within that space. And I appreciate that you brought that into the conversation, because I think a lot of people do think about membership models as we want to scale it to hundreds of people. And that's great for some spaces and what they want to do long term. But for other models, that could be detrimental, and it would just not mesh well with what your capacity is within that space. So I think that's a great aspect that you brought into the conversation for people to consider.
Yeah. Do you guys have like a pricing process you take your people through?
Lyndon has made a couple of different pricing spreadsheets that have been helpful for our clients. I'll let you answer that one.
I think for me, generally, so like if I go back to when I was in grad school, like roughly like there's 3 types of pricing, which most people that have thought a lot about pricing, like there's cost, there's reference based of like how do you compare to the market, or there's value, which is unique to you and your customer, how much value you're driving. For depending on where people are in business, sometimes the first offer that they ever sell, you kind of have to go with cost because they don't even know what they're doing. And so they're going to start with their own time. I try and move them up that as fast as possible of like maybe go reference based and just use cost as the floor that you absolutely will not go below. But as soon as you start getting unique, like one of one that no one else can do, absolutely go in like a value based on, make an estimate of how much value you're driving and go on a percentage basis of that, depending on like what makes sense for your industry. I think it's difficult to say the exact process because everyone is slightly different, but generally it's that process of like, we'll walk you to value as soon as possible. But if you can't, you fall back to the previous one that's possible based on the data that they have for their own business.
Yeah.
I'm curious, since you brought it up, do you have a process that you run your clients through when it comes to pricing?
Well, my clients are different. So
Right.
like the reason I was asking is because that could impact how you think about the membership side. So like, for example, if you said like, well, I'd help people figure out their adjusted hourly rate and then whatever, then I'm like, you can use that same exact model.
Yeah.
Obviously a little bit different when we're talking value-based pricing, but you still have a sort of like baseline, or like if this package that's one-on-one includes all of these things, then we want to think about how we're going to come down, but also make the numbers work. So like, you know,
Right.
you never want to go below cost. So
Right.
that's actually going back to the mistakes question. That's a mistake I see people make is they
Yeah.
priced way too low. So definitely do your due diligence with your pricing. When you launch in the beginning, you want to have a good strategy. Like I described, I'm doing a $2,000 discount for my first 20 people that come in. You know, that adds some urgency. It also gives people a little bit of, what's the word? Forgiving. With like,
Sure.
yeah, like a little more
Yeah.
forgiving when like I'm still setting stuff up. And
Right.
that's okay. Like it can be a little bit messy. And so, yeah, just being thoughtful about that. I also like to think about full offer suites and where our membership fits in. And you don't want to like compete with your one-on-one service. So it needs to
Right.
be a price point that makes sense. That's like
Right.
serving people that are at a different stage in your customer journey.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, like since you've worked with a number of memberships and you've now seen people misprice, how do you actually go through that? Like, I started at the wrong price point and now I need to readjust. Like, what does that process look like for anyone that might be listening that's like, I am not making money on my membership. I love it, but it has to change.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people literally like 10x their pricing, which you totally can
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
It's just about a restructure moment. Obviously, I have a framework I take people through. I'm like, been harping on that.
Love it.
We love a good framework.
So I would like take people through our process to reassess, okay, you priced here, let's like re-architect your offer. So if you're going to start offering, you know, a copywriting service where you're going to have, like my friend Emily added on tech support because she was helping people with their marketing email plans for the month and then copy editing their marketing emails that they were sending, which included like newsletters, but also whatever marketing emails they were sending, like sales campaigns, etc. And so she noticed that a lot of people were struggling with the tech part, like actually building the sequences in Kit or whatever platform they use. And so she just added that on as a service, but it also drove the price up. Like now the price is increasing and you're getting this tech support. So one of my strategies because you might have people that are like already on a pricing plan is like, hey, we're adding this new feature for new members because the price is now X. If you want to unlock that feature, you can upgrade, but you give them a little discount. So that's a good way to get people that were on a lower price plan to go to the next one by saying like, we added this value. We can afford to offer you this value because of the package you're on. But if you want to upgrade, we'll give you a discount on that upgrade.
Yeah, that just feels so good. It just makes sense. As a consumer and as a business owner, that feels like a great win-win solution.
It's ethical.
Could go off on tangents, but
yeah, this is like an ethical way to raise pricing. It's like we added value, we're restructuring the offer. You're on this plan. That plan is now no longer. If you want to be on this other plan, you have this opportunity. And because you're an existing customer and we really appreciate you, we're going to give you this, discount.
Yeah, exactly. Since we are on the topic of pricing, obviously, when you're launching any kind of membership, you could have different tiers, different packages for people to opt in. What I'm hearing from you in that example was that's more of a not only repackaging to restructure a higher price point, that is a win-win, but also an add-on option. So my question is, do you have a preference? Is one better than the other in your experience from what you've seen on tiers versus an add-on approach?
It depends, and I've done both. I think a good way to think about it is this like a one-time add-on situation or is it a consistent add-on? If it's a consistent add-on, a tier probably makes sense. But let's say you have like 3 different add-on options and you don't want to package them for some reason. Then we don't want to have like a ton of different tiers, like 3 tiers max, but probably 2. And so a good way to think about it is like if there's like an add-on that's like consistent, let's just make it a tier. But if you have a few different types, then you might want to like have them separate as add-ons. I think that's a good way to think about it. But I also haven't seen one where there's like lots of different add-ons. Just remember that simple is better. And we don't want to
Yes.
like confuse people by giving them too many
Right.
options. Like this goes back to my user experience design training is like binary options, giving people two options to choose from is always
Yeah.
best because they're
Right.
comparing those two options to each other. We're not creating too much like cognitive overload or confusion that
Right.
just makes them get overwhelmed and leave. And so simple is always, always better. And like 9 times out of 10, when I look at offers, I'm simplifying them.
One of the frameworks I like to think about, we're talking about frameworks. When I started in corporate, they gave me here's your onboarding plan. Over the first 100 days, if you hit these milestones, we're going to track these metrics, and these actions should give you success to get up to speed in your new job as quick as possible. If you were to think about that for someone starting a service membership, what would be the milestones, metrics, and actions that would get them up to speed with their membership in that first 100 days?
Yep. Okay. So the first thing you need is that proven method or framework that you can build from. So like step 1 is take the process that you've been doing with your clients and formalize it in a visual mental model. Like, what does this actually look like? Are there 3 stages, 5 stages, whatever? Sort of like outline that and formalize it, design it, whatever, like that, build that thing. So that's like the success metric is you've created it and also you've shown it to people and gotten feedback and it makes sense to people. Make sure you build in those feedback loops. And then the next thing would be that you have a baseline of like 10 people that you can bring into this. Like I'm not opening doors till I hit my pre-sale of 10. That was my goal. And so I just hit that and now we're opening doors and I have another 20 people I'm trying to get in, right? Like personal invitations. So there's a baseline where it's like worth it. And this goes back to the numbers you're running. And it's like, is this worth it for me to build out this thing, build the software, actually run it and do the calls or whatever, put together all the resources. There's overhead in getting this thing set up. So you want to make sure that it's worth it. So basically making sure you can get in those like pre-sale numbers and getting your plan in place. I love a lead-in offer for pre-saling a service membership. So like doing whatever that first offer is and then selling it on the back. That's how I've gotten my 10 people. So it's like I do a strategy and then I say like, hey, I'd love for you to be one of our first members in the collective. Here's the gist. Here's your checkout link to hold your spot. And that's how I've done it. So I love a lead-in offer. And then lastly, you need a platform that is going to support onboarding resources, calls, feedback loops. So actually getting that, like getting your gauge your interest and then actually set that up and build the infrastructure so that once you are ready, you can bring in everybody that you've pre-sold to.
Absolutely. Do you have a platform of choice?
Well, if you're doing all of the things I just described, Circle is my platform of choice. So like that's what you guys are on, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. We love Circle.
Yeah. Circle's great. Our agency is a partner and we build on Circle for lots of clients. I mean, we have 20-person memberships, 80,000-person memberships.
Yeah.
So like it's really crazy. There's lots of opportunity there. But what I love about it is you can get really crafty with like different spaces. So I was working with this functional health coach and we added like a case study review space. She helps other functional health coaches with their service businesses. And so she has this like space for case study reviews where they can submit a case study for review and she reviews it and it's very specific to that. So
I love that.
Yeah. In the copy editing one, we have similar stuff where it's like submit your copy for review and it can be very like specific. And then you have a community chat, which is like anything goes kind of space as well, but you just have a lot more flexibility than other platforms. And then as somebody who built software and as a user experience designer, it's just like the most seamless UX that I've seen. And I've worked with a lot of the platforms and that's why we only build on Circle now because I'm like, I will not mess with those other ones. Yeah.
Yep. Well, that's why I wanted to ask. And we did a lot of research on choosing the right platform for us. And that Circle was what came up a lot in our market research calls. And the one that had the features that made it run the way that we want to with what we want to grow our membership into. And so I will say, like, it's a bit more of an investment, but it does have so many great features that allow you to run things smoothly and automate depending on the plan that you're on. So, yeah, I had a feeling that would be your answer, but wanted to ask anyway. Okay, we can move into lightning rounds. I'm going to start with, you have a wonderful bookshelf behind you. For anyone who's watching the video podcast, we're big bookworms over here. I'm curious, what is your favorite business book that you have ever read, if you could choose?
These are mostly books from my previous life, like as like user experience design. I love Don't Make Me Think. Let's go with that one. Don't Make Me Think is a great UX design book.
Okay, good. I love that. I'll have to look that one up. That's fun. My best friend works in UX design, and so nice. I might look it up and recommend it to her. I feel like she would appreciate that.
She'll probably be like, duh, everybody's read this book.
She might be.
Yeah.
If I think about kind of like premise of this podcast in the name sustainable, when you think about for yourself, what is a routine that you can't live without?
I did a lot of, I don't know, I know these are supposed to be lightning answers, but this feels like a long answer. I did a lot of like health journey work in the last couple of years to regulate my nervous system. At the time, I didn't know, when I started this, I didn't know that was my problem, but that was my problem. Like, I just was holding a lot of stress in my body. I didn't know how to regulate. And the fact of the matter is, like, if you're running an agency or you're running a service business, you have stressful days and you have very busy days, and that doesn't go away. And so I think just learning how to regulate through those busy days by breathing, which not just like breathing unconsciously, but like breathing or subconsciously, but breathing with a lot of intention. And so something I can't live without now is like my ability to regulate my body through movement, walking outside, like just like taking a beat through. There's so much foundational basic stuff that we can do to serve our bodies, and we just are always in this like flight or flight like type mode, especially type A service business owners. And so it's really important for me now to prioritize my health in that way every day.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting how for a while people used to make fun of the phrase of like, go touch grass. But the thing is, like, it's so true. And I think that's why it's still stuck around for so long, is because it is actually transformational for a lot of people to like take a break. Like, I'm going to go for a walk outside of after this call because it's the gap between raining all day. And so I was like, that's my gap. I need to go outside.
Yeah, me too, actually. I think we need to listen more to our bodies. Like, they talk to us, right? And like I shared with you guys, I've been dealing with migraines this week, and like, okay, maybe I've been on my computer and sitting at my desk too much. Like, my husband was like, you didn't leave your office yesterday. And I was like, fair point. Okay. Like, so today I canceled everything except this interview. And I'm like, I'm going to relax. I'm going to go for a walk, and I'm going to like not look at my computer all day, because that's what my body's telling me that it needs. And we need to like actually listen to those signals.
Yeah. It's the biggest compliment that you kept us on your calendar today. So just thank you for that.
I was excited.
If I had migraines, everything would be off the calendar. So thanks. Okay. You just launched your own membership. We kind of alluded to that a couple of times throughout this conversation. I'm curious, how has it been being on the other side? What have been your biggest takeaways? And I know this is not so much a lightning round, but I had to include it somewhere.
I've been nervous for, I think, obvious reasons. Like, whenever we do something that we're known for, it's scary because it's like, what if this fails? Like, of course. Like, if you're a product person helping people build software and then you launch your own software and it fails, like, scary. So I really like questioned this for a long time, and I felt like now is the right time because of a number of reasons. But a lot of it comes back to like, I have the client base of like people that I want to connect with each other. And also I'm cool with it being really small, and I know that it's going to be valuable for the people that are in it. So I don't know, because again, I'm just like opening doors this week. as to like the lessons I'm learning. What I anticipate is that people won't behave the way I expect them to, because that always
Sure.
happens. I'm like telling my clients, like, you have to set really clear expectations, and I will do that. And I bet that they still won't do what I'm thinking they'll do. So I think it will be a lot of like rolling with the punches and learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have to say, I really appreciate your mindset around things. I
Thanks.
can tell you have a very strong growth mindset. And for anyone who is unfamiliar, just to quickly give a definition, there's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. It became very popular probably 10, 15 years ago somewhere. I don't know. It's an older one, but so worth the read. And she shares in her research, she found that there are two different types of mindsets. There's a fixed mindset, which is typically, I was just born with these gifts. So if I can't do something, it's because I'm not gifted in it. There's versus a growth mindset, which is we can always learn, and there are skills that we can acquire by being willing to learn about them and put into reps. And anyone can have a growth mindset. And I can tell that you have done a lot of work on that for yourself, just through the way that you have talked about a lot of the things in today's conversation. And I just want to call that out, because I know that does take a lot of work to really solidify and build the foundation for, and it shows. So I appreciate that.
Okay, we're going to try and keep these last ones actually lightning.
Yeah.
What's something bringing you joy right now?
My family time. Like, I've had just a lot of good time with, the people in my life lately. Like, I just hired another person in my business, and I feel like I have a little more space. And we've been spending I actually took the last 2 weekends off, you guys.
Good
Just
for
like
you.
big.
That's
So,
huge.
I'm spending a lot of quality time with my husband. My sister's in town right now. That feels really good. Bringing me joy.
That's one of my favorite like wealthy person purchases, is buying your time back.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating framework that I really like how people think about it.
Yeah, that's a good book too. I've read a lot of books. I really blanked on that question.
No, you're good. Okay, next question. Who are you learning from right now?
Oh man, I'm always learning from everyone. I'm such when it comes to growth mindset, I think I'm just like a learner at heart. Like, I'm just like constantly absorbing. Um, I'm in a mastermind with some other membership business owners, and I learned so much from them that I mean, if you're not like in a room with other people doing what you're doing, get in a room with other people doing what you're doing, because you're going to learn a lot.
Right.
And I certainly do not know everything about memberships. Like, there's so much to learn. And a lot of my clients I learn from too. Like, I just asked a client a question yesterday because there's something he's doing really well. And I was like, tell me how you did this. And I learned something on a workshop. I was leading the workshop, clients paying me, but then he showed me something he did. And I was like, wait, how did you build that? And I'm just like, don't be afraid to ask questions, even though you're supposed to be the quote unquote expert in the room, you know? And so, I'm learning from my clients, my colleagues. Yeah.
Big fan of that. Well, on that note, the last question is, do you have any questions for us?
How's your membership going?
Great question. I had a feeling
what's your biggest challenge right now with your membership?
Oh, I'll let you answer this one.
So I think I alluded to this earlier. We started 4 months ago trying to sell community.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We did like the classic mistake that you definitely said is a mistake, and we didn't listen to the experts, which is fascinating.
We learned. We flipped.
I think like the big thing for us right now is we're approaching it very like experimentally, of like each month we have specific things that we're experimenting with. And right now, like, we're definitely working in on like solidifying like what is the transformation that people are buying to get to the community to stay, instead of trying to sell community on the front end. And I think it's interesting starting to see that working, which is exciting for me, I think.
Yeah. So lately we've really been leaning into how are we equipping you with the habits and the skill sets and the tools so that you can earn more money in your business without burning out? And that has become our transformation state as of late. And there's a lot of things we can dive into under that, like marketing and sales strategies and offer ideation and revision. And so that's where we're currently at. It feels a lot better than it was because Lyndon's right. We definitely had a learning moment around, community is why someone would stay. It's not why they buy. Definitely not. So I think now that we are getting more clear on that, what we're really leaning into, which may answer your challenge question, is how do we grow it beyond? We have 16 members right now and growing. And so we want to be able to grow to, originally our goal was like to get to 50 members by the end of Q1. It's possible that could still happen, but we're in March and we would be stoked if we hit 25 by the end of this month, right? So we also want to do it in a way that is sustainable and is very intentional and the members feel supported in the way. So there's also something to be said about like, we don't want to grow too fast that you lose some of that magic as well. Yeah. So that's where we're at.
Cool.
I feel like it was just a brain dump that wasn't
structured.
It was
a brain dump.
The culture at Scale Piece is really interesting. We would see you really have to design for a launch model. Like if you have a launch model for a membership where you're bringing in a whole 50, 100 people or something in a launch, and that can really shift the culture. And so you have to plan for that when you're, especially in a small community. If you add, like you guys are at 16, if you added 15 people in a month, that's going to have a really interesting impact on culture. And so you have to be really thoughtful about how you design the onboarding, how you integrate those people, how you set expectations, how you culture control. I don't know if that's the best way to phrase it, but that is like a very interesting problem to solve that I'm focused on a lot with a lot of my clients. But cool.
It's something we care very deeply about. So yes, it's something we talk about this all the time.
Probably every day.
I feel like if we lived in the same area and we got together, it would be a topic that came up often.
Nice.
All right. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to just talk about memberships with us and bring your knowledge to the surface for everyone to learn from. How can people connect with you? How can they work with you moving forward? If someone is listening and they go, I have even more questions now, I want Becky's support on this. How can they get in touch with you?
Yeah. So I check out our agency website, affinitycollective.co. You can book a call with me on there if you want to just chat. And if you're obviously a podcast listener because you're listening to this show. So check out Build with Becky. It's a voice note style podcast. And so it's pretty quick, like 7-minute episodes of me just like diving deep on a specific membership topic. And my episodes are always very inspired by the conversations I'm having too. So if you're really like sending me questions or something, I'll probably make an episode about it.
We are not short on questions, so we can always do that. Great. As you've been able to tell. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for you, Becky, being here. And to those of you listening or watching, we appreciate you making it all the way to the end. We know this was a longer one. We appreciate you sticking around. Our last big favor that we have to ask of you listeners is if you really enjoyed today's episode, would you do one of two things? One, can you please leave a review either on Spotify or Apple Podcasts? That would make our whole day, our week, our year. It would be amazing. And or two, can you share about it on your Instagram stories and tag both us and Becky? So our username is at Jo and Lyndon, or you can tag the podcast, which is at The Sustainable Creator. And Becky, can you just give your Instagram username for anyone who wants to tag you as well?
Yeah, it's Build W Becky.
Amazing. All right. Well, we appreciate you. Thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next time. And I hope that you have a fantastic week. Bye.